Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make tiny improvements to your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon.
Hello and welcome to another episode. Today is going to be weird, strange. It's going to be a weird one because so much has happened in the last week. That sounds dramatic. It's all been in my brain, but you try living in there. It's a difficult place to be sometimes. So I am sharing money sabotages today. Last week, I introduced the money archetypes, and today we are going to talk about sabotages of those archetypes, specifically mine. So I have spent a week sabotaging myself, and I thought I would share the details. I've changed a lot. I've made some decisions. It's been a journey, so I'm going to share all of the details. First, a little bit of housekeeping. So first things first, if you have not taken the money archetype quiz, that is going to be your first step in figuring out what your money archetype is. There's 8 of them, and that is linked in the show notes. It's also on my website at thebrightballoon.com. You can find it on my Instagram page. It's everywhere. That is a longish quiz. It takes about 10 minutes, and it's a lot of questions, but the results are really accurate because of that. So if you've ever liked taking personality quizzes in a magazine, or you've taken Myers-Briggs or Enneagram, it's very similar. However, it spits out your archetype specific to how you relate to money. So it doesn't necessarily tell you your personality, it's your money personality. So that can look very different. The second bit of housekeeping is that tonight, so when this episode airs, it is Tuesday, and I am teaching as part of the Q Corner convention. So that is going on right now. And I believe you have to be a Rockstar member on the Q Corner YouTube account to get access to all the episodes, but I know that my class airs tonight, so I am sharing my organic Garland recipe. I'm talking about selling packages, centerpieces, columns. It's going to be really fun. I'm going to be on the live chat, kind of answering any questions, and I know that a lot of great people are teaching in this workshop. So if you have to become a member to get access, it is absolutely worth it. I actually just became a member this month, and the goodies that it unlocked it was kind of crazy. There's so many good classes on there. So that is just a personal plug. That is happening tonight. I didn't want to miss it. Another thing that I wanted to take a point to mention, you'll hear it from now on in the commercials, but I know sometimes, the commercials all start sounding the same. But Havin A Party, who is a sponsor of the podcast, has unlocked a special coupon code for anyone who listens. So if you are shopping for balloons, you can now get 5% off on all your orders. How crazy is that? So the coupon code is Bright Balloon, and you just enter that at checkout. That helps me, that helps the show, that helps you, saves you money, and it helps our sponsor. So it's a win-win-win. So I think that is it. Again, this episode is going to be a bit of a wild ride, so hang in there with me. Let's take a quick break and hear from a sponsor, and then get into our money sabotages.
Hey friends, I know you've heard about BalloonCoach.com, but I wanted to take a second to talk about Balloon Boss Summit, which is the in-person event that happens every year in Florida in November. I've been for the past couple of years, and I'll be returning again this year as an instructor. It's one of my favorite events because it gives me time and space to consider my business goals and network and learn from other balloon professionals all around the country. So check it out in the show notes where you're listening because there are only a few spots left.
All right, here we go. Money sabotage time. So who better to talk about money sabotages than a saboteur? That is me. I have been doing some hardcore sabotaging lately, particularly around this course or this topic or the workshop that I was planning to launch. So last week, you probably listened to the episode about the 8 money archetypes, and I went through all of those, and then I announced a workshop that I was going to launch at the end of November. And immediately after publishing that episode, something in me just felt like out of alignment. It was like, I can't explain it, you guys. It was like not even dread. It wasn't that I didn't want to do the workshop. It was almost like imposter syndrome. It was like I wasn't ready to do the workshop, or I felt like people weren't interested in the workshop, or I don't know. All of this stuff just kind of came up, and it just didn't sit well. So I was thinking about it. I was obsessively texting Lily with all the ins and outs of like what I was thinking, and realized to just listen to my own dang self. Like sometimes I am so in all of this self-development stuff that I forget to actually practice it. And all of a sudden, by taking a step back, I was realizing how much sabotaging I was doing. So if you remember, my top archetype is the ruler. So some of my money sabotages are wanting to do everything, getting distracted by shiny objects, and just kind of monetizing everything, just acting too quickly, seeing a path to starting a new little side hustle, if you will. And because I'm efficient and because I can see a clear path to execute, I often do things before I really think them through or decide if it's something I actually want to be doing. And I realized, that is what had happened about this workshop. I got so excited about these money archetypes. I just wanted to have it be my thing. I wanted to do a workshop. I wanted to teach people. I wanted to do all the money archetype stuff. And almost as soon as I launched it, I realized, wait a minute. Could this be a shiny object? Could I be distracting myself? Could I be distracting you guys? And then, because it's just like this was set up to be a teachable moment for myself and for you, hopefully, I also in the book club just finished reading The Purple Cow. And kind of the 2 takeaways from that were figure out who your clients are and tell them what they want to hear. And then figure out where your clients are and go to those places. And if I apply those simple concepts just to my Bright Balloon business, so I'm not talking Wisconsin balloon decor here, I'm talking just Bright Balloon. You guys, you are my ideal clients. You are listeners. What do you want to hear? More episodes. Do you want to do a live in-person workshop on Zoom? Maybe, but like, why? You're already here. You're already on the podcast. So I broke that golden rule. And then the second one is, where are your ideal clients? Go to those places. You guys are here. You're on whatever app you're listening on. And there's like 115 of you over on Patreon. You're already there and you want to hear more episodes. So why am I getting in my own ruler way and I'm trying to make everything more complicated than it needs to be? And I'm glad I realized that. And it was like a bolt of lightning where like I realized I don't want to do a workshop. I don't want to have specific dates. You guys don't want specific dates. You like to listen whenever you like to listen. So I have decided to just scrap the entire workshop, and now it's just going to be over on the Patreon. So I am really, really excited. And I feel like, again, I keep using this word alignment, but that is how I feel. It seems like everything is in alignment now. So you can listen to these episodes for free, or if you are into this money archetype, money personality stuff, that is going to be over on the Patreon group at a new tier. So that's going to be the highest level. Get ready, break the bank. That is my $8 $8 tier now. So if you're already in the book club, if you're on that $5 plan and you find this interesting, you can upgrade to that $8 plan. And then there's going to be bonus, not only episodes, but like resources, worksheets. There's going to be a lot of additional bonus content over on that money archetype tier. That way, if you're into this, there's a place for you. If you're not into this, you don't have to listen to money archetype stuff. And I'm excited because it feels like that's where you already are listening. So why would I make it harder? So I am happy to fail in front of you all because I think that's how we learn. And this is the medium that I feel really comfortable with. I think some of that anxiety about, wait, do I know how to do a Zoom call? How do I coordinate this? Where do the recorded episodes go? Where am I going to record this in my house? That is such typical ruler sabotage. I was making everything so much more uncomfortable, so much more complicated than it needed to be. And yeah, that was my learning experience this week. Like literally, I found out about something I loved. I put the pedal to the metal, and without taking 2 seconds to think about it, I went on a little sabotaging spree. So now that I have pumped the brakes, I actually feel more able to move forward. I feel like I can just start cranking out archetype episodes. In fact, by the time you listen to this, there are going to be 8 free episodes available on that Patreon tier. And that way you can listen to your individual sabotage episodes. So if you are a ruler and you want to learn more about ruler sabotages, there is an episode. It's free. You can access it right now. I'll have Nicole actually attempt to link those in the show notes, but I don't actually know if you can. Patreon's weird about linking things. So if not, you'll be able to go over to the Patreon page and find your little sabotage episode there. But I just felt like this was all too perfect not to share. And on the same idea about sharing, I really like sharing, but as this podcast has grown, which I am so freaking grateful for, anytime someone finds the podcast, I am just so happy that you all still are learning along with me. But it makes me a little bit more guarded, and I don't like that. So that $8 Patreon, that is going to be where I share kind of the stuff that I'm going to keep closest to me. So my actual sales numbers, what I pay in taxes, how much I'm paying my new employee, all of those specific things, because frankly, I just I don't think that's stuff that I want to share to just anybody in the world who could listen. Sometimes I actually wonder, are clients listening to these episodes? Is my new employee listening to these episodes? The Patreon group is going to be where I feel protected, which is where I will be the most willing to share. So that $8 tier is going to be, that's it. And I've also put a guardrail in place for myself. So 2023, I am declaring no new things. I'm going to put my little ruler in a box, and I am focusing on the podcast and the Patreon. That is it. Those are the only things you're going to hear from me. There's not going to be this new whatever. And if there is, be like, Sarah, you are a ruler and you need to get your act together. Because the reason I'm sharing this is because I know so many of you relate. Ruler was by far the highest ranking of the archetypes. I think it's been a week now. I think 150 of you have taken the quiz, and ruler is probably 30% of you. And keep in mind, of everybody else who didn't get ruler as their first, a lot of people got ruler as their second or third archetype. So that is why I'm sharing this ruler sabotage, because that is the number one thing that as rulers we do. Because we are able to do a lot, because we can almost make more hours in a day, we tend to fill those hours with more stuff, and we're creating our own burnout. And I actually think I fell into this because I've hired someone to help me. And those additional hours that I all of a sudden have in my day because I'm not inflating balloons, I had to fill them with something. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. So I'm really, really trying to keep the guardrails on and focus and stay focused on my business, the podcast, and the Patreon group. And I know that there are other people who all of a sudden start like kind of deviating from balloons. They start offering full party planning and then rentals, and then all of a sudden you're like a day of coordinator, and then all of a sudden you start coaching local people in your area because someone asked you to do a class, and then all of a sudden you start offering balloon kits on Etsy. And it's because you're capable as a ruler. It's because you are physically able to do all those things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you should. You shouldn't be doing all those things. Sometimes I look at, like, when I look at like real role models for me in this industry, it's people like Balloons by Tommy, who after years and years have never deviated from balloons. They don't do anything but balloons. They're so focused that they're really successful. Or David Mahoney down in Texas, same thing. His company is amazing. They do like over $1 million in sales a year. I'm pretty sure. We're not like personal friends. I just know he is like so successful and so focused on what makes money. And for him, that is balloons. So I'm rambling a bit, but I hope that's okay that I shared that. Like I record these episodes pretty much in real time. I do not have like a master plan laid out. So I came to kind of this crossroads, and it was like, I can double down and really commit to this workshop, or I can just admit that I took a little bit of a detour and now I am back on track, and it feels really good. It feels the way it should. So I'm really, really excited to offer bonus episodes and bonus content in that Patreon group. And that way, if you're not interested in this stuff, you don't have to focus on it. I should mention, I don't know if I already did, that additional tier in the Patreon group, you get everything. So you get the book club episodes, you get the little sticker, like you get everything. So I'm going to take a quick break, and then we are going to talk about some of the sabotages that you might see in your business. And if you want more, you can listen to those bonus episodes.
You work at a distributor providing products to the balloon decor and twisting industry? If so, I would like to help you monetize your e-commerce website with upsells, cross-sells, packages, and the other techniques that are growing average order revenue. I'm Jeff at Asset Lab, and we provide digital marketing to distributors serving the balloon decor industry just like you. Get in touch by visiting assetlab.us.
All right, welcome back. Let's talk about some of these money sabotages. So like I mentioned before the break, I am going to do a little bit longer episodes on each archetype, because I've realized based on last week's episode, cramming 8 archetypes into one episode, it's hard. It gets to be a lot. So I'm going to go over kind of like the surface level sabotages in this episode. And then if you think that is interesting and you want to learn more, a fuller episode just for you and your archetype is going to be over on our brand new Patreon tier. So let's kick it off with ruler, because I already mentioned that. So I am a ruler. My sabotages are shiny object syndrome. I want to do everything. I struggle with perfectionism a little bit. For me, that's not as big of a deal as a lot of rulers. Like, I have sent out emails with the most embarrassing typos, and I'm just kind of like, meh, whatever. But I know some rulers really struggle with like getting everything figured out before they move forward, which can be really frustrating in a business because it's just never ready. Like it's never done. I mean, look at me. I literally launched a product last week that I decided not to actually launch. So yeah, you can never be fully ready. Moving on to accumulator. So that is my next second highest. Lots of accumulators in this group too. And as a side note, I feel like our data is a bit skewed because I'm sure that my style of podcasting, people who listen to podcasts, are kind of similar in a lot of areas too. Like that might bring out a certain type of archetype. So there are a lot of rulers and a lot of accumulators in this group. So accumulators are the bankers. They are really good at money. They're just natural savers, but that can be a sabotage when you start being too stingy and you're afraid to spend in your business, or you feel guilty spending either in your business or in your regular life. And the way this comes up for me is that I, for whatever reason, like really don't pull money out of my business. Like I follow profit first. So I set aside 50% of every dollar that comes in for owner's distribution pay, but then it just like sits in a bank account. It's almost like I never know if I really can use that money. Like when is it really mine? And it's really mine the minute I transfer it over. But for some reason, I'm very resistant to spend that money. I just feel more secure having a big nest egg built up. And I know I've talked to other accumulators that feel the same way because saving makes us feel accomplished. Another sabotage is that kind of like the resistance to hire help. Like a ruler might resist hiring help because they just can do it faster themselves. An accumulator might resist hiring help because of the money. And I struggled with this big time because I know if I'm paying someone $15 an hour and they're slow, my inner accumulator is going to start weeping. Like I don't like wasting money. I have loosened up a bit on this. I feel like the more money you make, the easier it is for you to be a little bit less frugal, but some accumulators are just going to kind of like clench on to their money because it is their ultimate safety net. The biggest sabotage that I think comes with an accumulator, personally, as an accumulator, is that there's no amount of money that is going to create the safety that you feel like you need. So for me, I shared in last week's episode, I kind of always told myself I would leave my day job when I hit a certain amount of money. And for me, it was paying off the mortgage of my home, which is kind of a crazy goal. A lot of people would say that that's a dumb goal. You should never pay off your home. But I didn't want to owe anybody anything. And then I paid it off. And it was like, actually, if I stay at my day job, I'll still just be able to make even more money. And I'm still there. I'm still at my day job. And I think a lot of accumulators struggle with ever feeling that sense of security when it comes to money. Let's move on to Mavericks. That's my third. And we like to sabotage. So over the course of this week, I had to constantly ask, like, am I pulling the plug on this workshop because that's my Maverick just telling me to burn it down? And I really, really had to think about that because that is the sabotage of a Maverick. You get all the work done, then you get bored, and then you burn it to the ground. And it took a while for me to come around to the realization that not doing the workshop and moving it over to the Patreon group really was the best option. And I think my Maverick liked that because it was like, yeah, there's less rules and there's no time set, and it's not on Zoom on a certain day on a certain time, and it's actually less structured, which is why my little rule breaker really liked it. So that's what I mean when I feel like I was in alignment. It was like all of my archetypes were like, yes, this feels good, and that was what made me move forward with all these changes. So the Maverick, I think in a balloon business, this would be like abandoning a perfectly good business. Mavericks can be great with money. They have great ideas. They can be really competent and be able to get a lot done, but that boredom creeps in. Mavericks can also be very cool. You can use that boredom as a strength because you are going to be the ones who innovate and find new and exciting ways to do things. I would say these are probably like the change makers in the balloon industry, but you can get in your own way because you just get bored and burn things down. Like I bet a lot of Mavericks aren't even doing balloons anymore because they started during COVID. It was super fun. And as soon as it turned into something that was just like a day-to-day grind, they were just like, I don't want to do this. And it's not laziness. It doesn't come from a point of laziness. It comes from a place of boredom. So I relate to that a little bit as a Maverick, but that is my third archetype. So not as much of a rule breaker in my personal life. Another thing I want to mention, I just walked through my top 3 because you can see how important those all are. They kind of push and pull amongst each other. So if you want to learn more about your archetypes, when you join that Patreon tier, I will send you your top 3. And like I mentioned, I think in last episode, it's very different if your top is a ruler, but your second is a nurturer and then a maverick versus an accumulator and a connector for your top 3. Like you can be a totally different money personality, even if you have the top archetype as someone else, because the way the results come out, like on my end, what I can see is like a points value. And some of you have like 1 point different between your top and your second. So it doesn't mean that like your top is the end all. It just means that's one component of who you are and how you behave around money. All right, let's move on to the connector. So connectors are all about the relationships, which sometimes mean those sabotages can be neglecting the money because you probably didn't start your business for the money, or you feel like people need to come first. That's a really admirable quality, but you can kind of forget about the money altogether. A lot of connectors like don't know how much they made because it doesn't matter, or you're willing to cut prices because you want people to get what they want and you don't really care about getting what you want. And let's just go right into the nurturer. These two are kind of like sister archetypes. The nurturer, same thing. I think the nurturer is way more likely to be taken advantage of because connectors are about those relationships. So if there's a toxic relationship, you're probably going to be able to identify it, versus a nurturer is much more likely to get taken advantage of or just get in your own way by giving discounts and lowering prices and feeling like you are serving and taking care of people by not taking care of yourself. And what's really scary about nurturers is that you're good with money. Like you are good with money, so you have it, which means that people who need help know that you have money, or you have money. Like you love giving, you love helping people, and that can get a little bit out of control if you're not aware of that sabotage. All right, next up, we have the Alchemist. So the Alchemist is like the idea generator. And because ideas are free and they come freely to alchemists, there is a lot of undervaluing that happens. Alchemists can come up with ideas and then freely give them away and not ever feel like they should be compensated for what they're doing. Because ideas are so intangible, you're not actually giving away a good or a service. You might get taken advantage of in the way that you're giving away your money-making ideas and you're not actually making money on them. So when alchemists can figure out how to monetize their ideas, that's where all of a sudden you start making a ton of money, and it almost feels bad because like it's so easy for you. Like the money just starts flowing because people are willing to pay for ideas. Like that is one thing that, as someone who is not an alchemist, I am willing to pay for ideas because I am really great at figuring out how to implement those ideas. So something like Balloon Boss Mastermind is really good for me because it puts me in contact with other people who have the ideas, and then I can figure out how to implement them. This happened about 2 years ago, and some of you remember this, for Adopt a Grandparent. My friend Liz, who used to work at Valley Party in Indiana and now works for Conwin Premium, she is just like an idea generator. And she came up with this idea of Adopt a Grandparent, which was during COVID, we were all kind of creating this movement to have community members purchase these little balloon buddies that we then delivered to local assisted living communities. Because if you remember, a lot of those residents couldn't leave. Like for a year, they were like on lockdown because of COVID. It was really, really terrible. So we were creating these like happy experiences for them, and people were so excited to give and support. And Liz was really the alchemist behind that. She came up with that idea, she articulated the idea, and she gave it away freely within Balloon Boss Mastermind. And there are a lot of us in that group that not only created so much joy, but a lot of money. It was profitable. Like, we were able to keep our businesses profitable through COVID in this really awesome win-win-win situation. We were able to identify a problem, which was the residents not being able to see their families, not being able to get visitors, and people in the community were so generously willing to support. And then we were able to provide balloons and provide joy to create this incredible movement. Like, I still get goosebumps when I think about it because it was so cool. And Liz was, in my mind, kind of the idea behind that. And because we all had this group, because we were all in Balloon Boss Mastermind, that's a plug, by the way, if you can't tell. It's a really great group. That is where ideas come from, and then you can implement them in your own way. So that was a really big tangent on the benefits of an alchemist. But the sabotages are when you just keep giving ideas away and you're not making any money from it. You need to turn your ideas into action or hire people that can help you do that. Alchemists work great on a team because they can churn out these $1 million ideas and then not actually have to implement them. They can be on to the next idea when their team is actually implementing their last idea. Okay, let me take a break, grab a drink of water. Let me regroup. We will finish out the remaining archetypes after this quick break.
If you haven't checked out Havin A Party Wholesale yet, what are you waiting for? And guess what? The deal just got even sweeter. Our friends over at Havin A Party have set up a special coupon code just for listeners of the podcast. Use code BRIGHTBALLOON for 5% off the next time you check out at Havin A Party. So head over to havinaparty.com for your next balloon order.
All right, and we have two left. We have the celebrity and the romantic. And just like the connector and the nurturer are companion archetypes, so are the celebrity and the romantic. So very similar, but different sabotages. So the celebrity and the romantic both understand the value of taking care of themselves. And the celebrity, that's a bit more outwardly focused. Like, they love having, designer items, or they love the VIP experiences, or they upgrade whenever possible, like on a flight or in a hotel. They like the nice things in life, and the romantic does too, but it's a bit more inwardly focused. So bubble baths, massages, just like kind of when you think of that romantic, like everything's going to work out, everything's dreamy, like luxuries. So these two are similar. The sabotages are a little bit different though. So celebrities are natural leaders. Celebrities stand out in a crowd. They're actually really good with money, which makes their spending not as big of a deal. Like, celebrities love to buy stuff, but they have the money to buy it. So the only way this really comes out in a sabotage is if they start overspending or they get carried away. But in general, celebrities are pretty good at money and they're pretty good at business. So this tends to work out sometimes. And again, I am not like a psychiatrist or, this isn't like real therapy, but sometimes the celebrity can be outwardly showing, like a shiny persona, because inwardly they're trying to compensate for like inside doubt or something like that. So though they might look polished and put together, on the inside they might be struggling. Romantics are not. Romantics on the inside are like, I'm amazing, everything's wonderful, I deserve it. However, the romantic is not as good with money. So they tend to have more of this personality of like, everything's going to work out. I'm just going to toss my credit card bill because I live in this mind state of abundance, and I'm not even going to check my bank account because whatever. So that you can see romantics tend to get in trouble a little bit quicker because they don't care about the money. It's not that they're even flaky or bad at money. They just like genuinely don't care. So I think romantics make really great clients, because they are the ones that want to splurge on the party because they want what they want, and they understand that celebrating a special moment is really important. So romantics can get in trouble with money, but I think the best way to avoid that sabotage as a romantic is to get really good at outsourcing. Hire a bookkeeper, hire someone to take care of the money for you, put guardrails in place like an auto saving or an overdraft protection. Like, you can build in these little guardrails to protect yourself from these sabotages. I would argue that like my ruler sabotages are a bit sneakier because it looks like work and it makes money. So on the outside, it doesn't look like rulers are sabotaging. It just looks like they're working really hard. But then when you take a step back, you're like, I am doing too much. I'm burnt out. I've created a monster of a business that I can't keep going. And all of a sudden that burnout hits. So those guardrails are a bit harder. But that is just kind of like some surface level sabotage that you might have identified with. You might say like, yeah, I know I sabotage in those areas, but I've gotten better. So there's so much there to unpack, but I'm going to do full episodes for each archetype over in the Patreon group. They're going to be free, so you don't have to join. Also, I know if you're not familiar with what Patreon is, you're like, I don't even know what that is. So these free episodes are a way for you to check it out and test it out without having to like get a new thing or buy or whatever. And I just want to say too, like, I know that right now everyone's trying to make a buck. Like, I scroll Instagram and everyone has a subscription. Everyone has something for sale. Everyone's teaching a class. Everyone has everything. Like, maybe just because I'm part of that, I notice it more, but I have so many subscriptions. So if what am I trying to say? If this is not for you, that's like totally fine. Like, if all you ever want to do is listen to this completely free podcast, that is totally fine. I am so, so grateful that anyone even listens. Like 2 years ago, 2 years ago, that's crazy. 2 years ago when I started this, my goal was to make it to 100 episodes, and I never thought I would. So the fact that I have flown past that and have sponsorship support and have listener support, I'm just like, life is so good, and I'm just so, so thankful. So if the Patreon group is like not in the budget right now, or it's just like one thing you don't want to do, again, no hard feelings. You're probably an accumulator though, by the way. So I am really excited to continue talking about these archetypes. They're, like I said, I am deep down the rabbit hole. Like, I am in a course learning about them, and I'm in a course learning to train about them. So like, I'm all archetypes all the time, and I just don't want to have to stop talking about it. So that's why I think the Patreon group is going to be a great fit. If you are also into this, I'm over there waiting for you. So thank you so much for hanging in there. I hope that was fun to hear how I sabotaged and changed things on the fly. And I think that's what we have to do. It's what we have to do to make things feel good. You know that my top priority is always like lifestyle and comfort and work-life balance, and I just felt things like going awry, so I needed to self-correct. So there we go. All right. I hope that if you have not already, you head over to the show notes and take your money personality quiz. If that's all you do and you read about your money archetype, I think it will help you. It's very cool stuff. So I will see you next week for another episode, and I will see some of you soon over in the Patreon group.
Thanks for listening. As usual, I tried to keep it bright and light. If you're interested in bonus episodes, head over to our Patreon group where I release a brand new episode every week in our book club. Each month, I read through a brand new self-development book that helps us all grow and learn in our businesses. Or join the brand new Money Archetype tier and gain access to bonus episodes and resources all about your money archetype. For more information about any of the resources in this episode, check out the show notes or head to thebrightballoon.com.